What's up, everybody? What a day, what a day, what a day. Welcome. This is Matt Monarch with the rawfoodworld.com, and it's time to do a live hangout. So, thanks for joining in. Just letting the numbers build up for a second here. Ding, 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 ding. And here we go. What's up, Heather? What's up, everybody? Okay, so we got lots of questions here today. This is great. Move this here. Whoops. Okay, so welcome everybody. Last week was a very big week here at the Raw Food World. I told my story about everything in terms of, I guess you could say, my ups and downs and ups and downs. And it seems like I'm at the tail end of the trials and tribulations here. And we had a lot of questions from this very powerful hangout last week. And I'll be addressing them today. In the meantime, what I'm going to be doing is just answering the questions, waiting for the numbers to build up that are here already. So let's see what's going on here and read these guys. Okay, Michelle writes, just thought I'd get the discussion going. Aside from your higher self, who do you consider to be your top three spiritual teachers? Why? I don't really have spiritual teachers. You got to be very careful for spiritual teachers. I don't want to be considered a spiritual teacher. You got to be careful of me. So with that being said, I don't have a top three. Yeah, okay. Brandy writes, raw food, nourishment for your physical and spiritual journey. Love it. It has been a while since I have peered into you and Angela's lives, since there's always this whirlwind of things that sweep me off of my doing something else. I love that you are connecting the two. Spiritual nourishment is just as important, if not more. So seeing as we are spiritual beings first, as that is our earthen vessel, I adore seeing your family smiles and triumph. This journey we take certainly has many trials. It is what you take of it that matters. You and Angela keep shining your lights, not for the world, but for those in your world, because that's where it is all. With more loving spirits to raise that light energy, you are helping shape the world you want for your children. Through your children, it's a beautiful thing. Much love to you and your family. Thank you for your kind words. No questions there. Okay, here we go. We got two questions. Nobody's been asking questions yet. Okay, so here we go. Liana writes, how to stay raw when your family is not, by the way, we're gonna get into how I healed naturally in about 15 minutes. We're gonna dive right into that, how I healed through the whole spiritual aspect. What's up, Lisa, I see you. Okay, how to stay raw when your family is not, and you are surrounded by all those foods and need to cook it all for your teenagers that are very particular about their choices. I tried to be raw and went back because of my children. They want to socialize and food limitations make it hard for them. Okay, I've been 100% raw for about 20 years now. And I'm not the biggest fan in terms of recommending people to go raw because it's not an easy thing to do. So with that being said, my main thing would be trying to stay away from processed foods. Like if you can't control yourself with processed foods because of your children, why go so far with raw? Why don't you just like take small steps, eliminate like processed foods that causes disease, such as refined sugars and processed starches, and then if you can't even handle raw, you might not even be able to handle that. So like this is like too much for most people going all the way like that. This is why I usually recommend a cooked whole foods diet. Many people have healed from all sorts of degenerative diseases by doing not even 100% raw, but just eliminating the processed foods, refined sugar, processed starches, trans fatty acids, and things like this. Okay, okay, so here's a big one. Do you envision a future where you and Angela are back together, perhaps a recoupling? Okay, so So the question is, do I envision a future? We wouldn't, if I envision that future, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. We took a long time to determine what we were going to do, and we decided to do this. I can't ever predict the future, but I do not envision a future where we get back together, because we envisioned a future together of doing this conscious uncoupling. So to envision is going again to that we would get back together is like going against everything we just did. If that makes sense. Okay. Okay, let's just do we're gonna just do, okay. Okay, so it seems like there's just like a lot of, okay, so let's read this. I'm just gonna stick to like the last week's hangout. I'm not gonna do many nutritional questions. Anything in regards to that, I'll answer. Let's see here. And I'm so proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. You inspire me. Thanks, guys. Okay, so here we go. Cassandra writes, we're gonna talk about my story and about, not my story, we're gonna talk about how I healed my physical ailment in about 10 minutes. I just wanna wait for the numbers to build up, which they're doing. Okay. Cassandra writes, I've been a fan and followed your videos for as long as you have been uploading them to YouTube. I am sure like many of your fans, I have had similar happenings in my life. I don't have a question as such. I just wanted to share that if you get on so well together and no one has been unfaithful, then why are you divorced? I am sorry that you had no one in your lives who could say to you, this is normal. This is just a glitch. Just hold on in there. It will come right. You are both clearly compatible. The best thing for your children is to see successful marriages like yours was. Okay, so this is kind of like a question because I'm gonna touch base on all this. Okay. Okay, so we're just gonna do one part at a time. Okay, so you said you just want to share that if you get on so well together and no one has been unfaithful, then why are you divorced? I'm sorry that you had no one in your lives who could say to you, this is normal. This is just a glitch. Just hold on in there. It will come right. You are both clearly compatible. Okay, so in one day's time, a day is 24 hours. And over the many years, Angela and I put many videos out there. Even if we did like 4 a week, sometimes there were 5 minutes, 10 minutes or whatever, you're only getting a sneak peek into like 5 or 10 minutes. That's a very small percentage of what you actually see in between what's happening with me and Angela. And don't get me wrong, we are compatible as really good friends. There's nothing wrong with what's happening here. And I understand that marriages have ups and downs. I've actually been in relationships before Angela to where there'd be crazy fighting, and that wasn't, for long periods of time, that wasn't a means to break up with the girl. There's just something different going on here. It was like an underlying sorrow that I was explaining that wouldn't cease due to restructuring, like I explained to you before. And the kids seem to me to be way more happier because of how happy we are since we've chosen to do what we did. Let's keep reading this. The best thing for your children is to see successful marriages like yours was. The thing is, like, who can determine the best thing for my children? You're saying the best thing for my children is what you perceive, getting 10 minutes 4 times a week, and then as the years went on, like 0 minutes for many years a week. It just doesn't fit into what we're looking at here. So for you to say as if you know the best thing for your children is to see a successful marriage, I feel is invalid. Okay. Go through trials and stick it out, not to give up first hurdle. I believe they appear unscathed, but they will grow up believing that love is not enough and marriage is meaningless. I disagree. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is stop because I didn't realize it was going to start getting more down. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. Hi, Matt, do you have any supplements recommended for gray hair? Actually, I started to get crazy gray hair. You can actually see some right here. And I was like, if I don't like do something about this gray hair, then my head is going to be filled with gray hair very soon. Like that's how the rapid rate my hair was graying at. So I did some research, and I'm in the process of testing it. So I don't want to necessarily like put out there what will work and what won't work. Cause I mean, it seems like it's ceased it. I mean, I still have gray hair. I hasn't taken it away, but I think it did slow it down. But the products that I'm taking for it is Hisha Wu. This is on our website, Jing Herbs. And then SOD. We don't have this on our website yet. This is the one I'm playing with. I'm gonna see if there's any better sources out there. There's just components in both of these which supposedly have the potential to stop the chemical conversions that happen when your hair starts to go gray. So let me experiment a little bit more on that and we'll see. Okay. Okay, so moving right along. We're about to get into how I healed. The numbers are jumping like crazy. Okay, so this is a really good one. We're gonna read this next question, and then we're gonna get into how I healed my physical ailments spiritually. Here we go. Hi, Matt. I've hurt my back really badly to the point that I could not even walk around properly or go to sleep. Serendipitously, my CBD oil arrived in the mail the next day, and I took it. I instantly became calmer, and my back pain subsided 80%. Thank you so much for making it known. I have one question, though. Have you heard about people having low white blood cell count even though they don't get very sick very much? My naturopath found it concerning, but it was not something that was an issue for me until I found out about it from a blood test. See, this is perfect for what we're about to start talking about. Okay, so you're doing perfectly fine with your white blood cell count. And now a naturopathic doctor who's supposed to be more conscious than the typical doctors is telling you that they're worried. They're putting their fear and worry on you. They're probably also selling you supplements at the same time to aid with this new disease that they found for you. Okay, so this is a perfect example. And this CBD oil example is really good also for, this testimonial is also really good for this story also. So Renata here had back pain to where she couldn't walk or sleep well. She could walk but not well and not sleep well because her back pain was so bad. And she took CBD oil, our CBD oil, the 100% raw CBD oil, and now 80% of it's gone. Okay, now don't get me wrong, CBD oil, we've gotten many testimonials to where it's helped people with all sorts of pain. It's been shown to activate many receptors in the body, such as TRP receptors, TRP receptors, which are responsible for pain sensation, temperature and pain sensation. Plus it activates serotonin uptake receptors, calcium uptake receptors, CB1, CB2 receptors. It activates all these receptors, and that's why it's so beneficial. Now, Renata here had a crazy amount of back pain. And don't get me wrong, CBD oil is amazing. I've seen it help with people with migraines and all sorts of pain and other things on top of that. But for her pain to go away 80% from taking CBD oil is profound. And what we're going to talk about now, I'm not saying that it's placebo. There might be it's working, but there might be a placebo aspect also going on. So let's discuss right now about how I personally healed disease, a serious disease, not serious, but a disease, a physical ailment, we'll call it, spiritually. So before we get into the placebo effect, let's talk about this physical ailment that I had. As I told you many years ago, I used to do enemas every single day for probably a decade. That's how crazy it got. Also, I was taking a supplement that was loaded with maltodextrin, and I was taking loads of it because it tasted good in coconut water. I thought I was just eating vitamin C, acetyl cherry, but I learned later it was 85% maltodextrin. Anyways, one day, all of a sudden, blood just started coming out my stool. a lot of it, like drip, drip, drip. And I'm not the type of guy to freak out about something like this. As crazy as that sounds. So anyways, what happened was I determined that I had to stop doing enemas and colonics. I had to stop or I could run into issues. Now again, many people, it's impossible for me to explain to people that this physical ailment came from a spiritual situation. It's very hard to explain that, but I'm telling you it did. Anyways, so what I did was, here I am, the 100% raw food guy, trying to heal this, and I did everything in my power physically in order to heal this, and I failed for about a year trying to do this. I looked up on the internet, I learned every aspect in terms of healing. Take slippery elm bark, it rebuilds the mucilaginous lining along the colon and all around the digestive GI tract. I fasted. I literally ate very little for 8 months. I was practically on a juice fast for 8 months. And then I read Tanya Zavasta's book, another extreme raw food eater, who had a tooth issue. And because she's already clean already and practically fasting all the time anyways, she had to up it another level. And so what she did was she did something called dry fasting. And when she did dry fasting, you seriously don't drink any water. You don't even get in the shower. You don't even brush your teeth. You just literally eat and drink nothing. And you go for as long as you want. She was explaining how like she healed. It was amazing. Instantly. So me personally, I was like, okay, let's try this. I seriously went, every hour is crazy on a dry fast. I did it twice, 72 hours, even more. Every day on a dry fast is like 3-day water fast in terms of ketosis, going into ketosis and the amount of cleansing you do. Anyways, I finished this fast. I started eating, and then a couple days later, I ate some kale chips and blood was just coming out. And I'm like, I took all the supplements. I took everything you need in order to heal. I was on a raw food diet. And I stopped enemas and colonics completely. My system works extremely well. As you can see, or my skin wouldn't look so good. I was like, what is going on here? I've tried everything in my power to heal physically and nothing was happening. So then this is when I stumbled upon in my time to how to heal from disease, physical disease spiritually. And there are times where you don't need to go through all the suffering and intensity that I went through. There are shortcuts, but one of the reasons why I had to learn all the inner workings, ins and outs of every last aspect of how to heal spiritually from physical ailment was so I could master it and teach it to others. That's kind of like the download that I got. So here we go. Now, before I explain how I healed from I have no idea, like I'm just like going off a whim here. I didn't plan anything or anything, so I'm just gonna go, I did the same thing with my story. I'm just gonna talk about a few concepts, and then we're gonna go into how I healed my physical ailment spiritually. So the first thing I wanna talk about is the placebo effect. The placebo effect is a very powerful and potent tool. There have been many studies showing people taking a sugar pill that has 0 active ingredients, and based off belief, they heal from disease. People have healed from cancer. I heard it was like 70% in one clinical trial. There's this one guy who had 7 days to live from stage 4 cancer. And he heard about a study going on about some sort of drug that was going on. And this is in a medical journal, so it's 100% legit. It's actually on YouTube. Just type in cancer placebo, it's probably one of the top videos. And he begged them to allow him to be part of this trial about this new drug that supposedly heals cancer. And they're like, no, you have to be like 3 months out before dying in order to do this thing. He's like, please, come on, I have 1 week, let me just do this, please. And they finally allowed him to take the placebo pill. He took the placebo pill, And he ended up out of the hospital 7 days later in an airplane because he was a pilot flying an airplane. For a person to have stage 4 cancer, you cannot get in an airplane in that type of altitude. 7 days after almost being dead. It's in a medical journal. So then he read in a newspaper that the pill was found useless and doesn't work. And as soon as he read that, he ended back up in the hospital with 7 days to live due to stage 4 cancer. And so the doctor was like, hey, let's see something here. And they said, hey, we got this new pill that came out that heals cancer. He took it. 7 days later, he was back into the airplane flying again. And everything was going good. He was good with his family and everything like this. And then he saw in another newspaper that that new drug was useless. He ended up in the hospital and died, unfortunately. That is a written documentation showing this. That's placebo working for you and working against you at the same time based off of belief. There was this knee surgeon who had an 80% success rate in healing people's knees. He was the best in the sports industry. He agreed to do a placebo test. He gave 50% of the people the knee surgery, the actual knee surgery, and the other 50%, he gave a fake knee surgery. They were watching a TV screen of a real knee surgery, but all he did was make a slit in the knee and sew it up without doing anything. In the placebo group, 80% of the people's knees were healed based off belief. So he had to actually quit his profession. So the placebo effect is very powerful and potent. People have healed from all sorts of knee surgeries. Bad knees have gotten better. We were talking about Renata here, who her back had an issue and she couldn't even move. She took our CBD oil. It's 80% better. The danger of the placebo effect is that can actually work against you also. So if you go to the doctor and you're told you have 6 months to live, generally what happens is that person usually goes to chemo and dies in perfectly 6 months. It's like crazy how right on they are with that. And then there's even more crazy situations that I think is more crazy is people go in because they have symptoms of not feeling well. They're overweight and they want to put blame on something. Their hair is falling out, maybe because they're eating 20 tablespoons of refined sugar nonstop. So they go to the doctor takes blood tests, just like they did with Renata, and they told her that she had a low white blood cell count. She felt great, everything's great, and now she just discovered this new illness that this naturopathic doctor is fearful about. So you go to the doctor and they tell you you have a thyroid problem. Oh, that's why I was overweight. It's almost like you are looking, where many people are looking for a reason. And it's like, now all of a sudden, based off of black ink on a piece of paper, you have this new ailment, and then you nurture it and care for it for the rest of your life. It's almost like yours. You make people feel guilty about their illnesses. Oh, I need more help now. All sorts of things that are going on. And it's like this belief that now that you have this lifelong disease and there's nothing you can do about it. And then you end up on pharmaceutical drugs or whatever. There's many examples of people who don't accept that. Generally, when you get that piece of paper and they tell you have a disease, a person they panic. And it's like they become flushed, they're sweating, they're perspiring. They have now accepted this disease. And now their life begins in a new direction on how they're gonna do this type of thing. So let's give an example. We did this last week. Tony Robbins, when he was in his early 20s, you could go to YouTube and watch the entire story. Just type in Tony Robbins on Dr. Oz, he told it there. He ended up with a tumor on his pituitary gland. That's why he grew really big. He's like 6'8" or something crazy, or 6'8". His hands are really huge. He had irregular growth because of the pituitary tumor. And so the doctors were like, look, Tony, it's not looking too good. We're gonna have to do surgery, you might die. What did Tony say? He said, no, I don't accept that. He said no. He pretty much said no to the doctor. I don't accept that. Normally the doctor is overpowering the patient. Like this guy with his fears saying you have low white blood cell count. He said no, overpowered the doctor, and said, I'm gonna go get 100 different doctors' opinions. So we got 100 different doctors' opinions. So Tony Robbins still has the same exact tumor on his pituitary gland. but he didn't accept it. Does this look like a man who is dying of cancer? Or does this look like a man who said, no, I don't accept the logical aspects of what anybody is saying and is thriving in life on all levels? And the crazy thing about this all is science doesn't even understand how the placebo effect works. They just don't get it. They say the placebo effect works because a person is in flight or fright and they have not all of their body components are working properly, because when you're running from a tiger, you are utilizing your muscles, your strength, and all of your things. So all of your other components are gone. So they're saying people in today's day and age are in flight and fright all the time. And therefore, this is why what happens is you take the placebo pill, all of a sudden you go from flight or fright to relaxation. And this is why the person heals from the ailment. Okay, so if this is the case, why is it if a person has a bad knee, has cancer and something else, and they take the placebo effect just for the knee, it only heals the knee, but it doesn't heal any of the other ailments? If they go out of flight or fright and go into a relaxed state, then if this concept was right, they would heal from everything. No, it doesn't make logical sense. It doesn't work that way. So there's a world that is just as real as this physical world that can't be seen with the human eye. And what's going on here, guys, is on a spiritual level. I'm not going to say all disease, but I'm going to say a very high percentage of disease is based off the spiritual world. So what we're going to do is go a little bit deeper into kind of like how I did this myself. So as we talked about last week also, we talked about in shamanistic traditions, if a person has a spiritual opening is what they call it, then what would happen is if there's a spiritual opening, foreign entities, foreign things, whatever you want to think about it, whatever you want to call it, can actually come in through that opening and latch on and kind of like drain that area. So if you go to the doctor and you're reading that you have a thyroid issue, this black ink on a piece of paper, and all of a sudden like you panic, all of a sudden you're sweating, you're perspiring, your mind's going like 1,000,000 miles per hour, you're relying on the doctor, all of a sudden you have accepted this. It's almost like you're declaring it that this is okay. You're not doing the Tony Robbins no thing, you're doing this. And this right here can create a spiritual opening. And if it's a thyroid issue off a belief, then, you know, I mean, I'm not going to say I know exactly what's going on here, but from what I'm just trying to put out concepts and ideas. And, you know, there's many other types of scriptures and other things like this. For example, if you're into Christianity or Jesus or the Bible, Jesus would go around healing people from disease instantly. So he would do it on a spiritual level, just like tick, 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 boom. So myself, okay, so there are many, so what I did was physical healing I've been 100% raw for 20 years. Physical healing wasn't helping me. There was blood coming out my rear end, nothing would work. So all I had left was to figure out how to heal from this spiritually. Now, whenever we have disease of any kind, there's usually a physical pain that is coupled with it. It's almost like the placebo effect works for, depends on what clinical study, 70% of people heal, but the other 30% don't. Why didn't the other 30% people heal? Maybe they didn't believe enough. Many people put a lot of hope and faith in doctors, and they say something, they're like, done. Anyways, so there's usually a physical pain coupled with a disease. Let's say you have colon cancer, generally your colon's gonna hurt. Let's say your back hurts, your back is gonna hurt. Let's say you have breast cancer, you're going to feel pain in your breast. You have arthritis, you're going to feel it here. So what's happening there? Okay, so we can look at it from a physical level. The doctors will say, okay, arthritis, genes, your fingers are becoming decrepit over age, cancer, well, okay, cancer. Only certain humans get cancer. Not everybody gets cancer. How did that get there in the first place? Is it because you treated your body really badly? Many people treat their bodies really badly. They don't get cancer. How is our flesh, which is 90% water with eyeballs and a skeleton, how is it able to not fall to the ground? And how am I able to sit up and speak? What is doing that? As soon as a person's dead, it becomes jello. So there's usually a physical component that is there with the degenerative disease. Now, what we're trying to do here is consciously heal the disease spiritually without having to do the unconscious method of getting a placebo pill. So if we look at the inner workings of how the people who healed cancer or their knee surgery, they took a fake pill or got a fake knee surgery, there's no active components, and all of a sudden they healed instantly. So what we have to do is look at this placebo effect and try to replicate it. Instead of doing it in an unconscious way, do it in a conscious way. So let's take a look. How is it that these people healed from cancer from basically taking a pill? Okay, so a person has been diagnosed with cancer by the doctor. I don't know if there's any other way to do that. They freak out, this becomes their new disease. And they're at home, they're in bed, let's say they have breast cancer, they feel the pain in the breast. When you feel that pain immediately, it puts your mind, it kind of almost like makes you check out into looping in your mind, like, how can I heal myself? Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? My children, my this or that or this. It's almost like we're not even present, and that physical pain is almost like it doesn't help. So when a person takes a placebo effect pill, they are told, this is gonna work, 100% this is gonna work. You have healed. All you have to do is swallow this and you're healed. So they take the pill, and out of pure, sheer belief, they now believe that they have healed from disease. So now, when all of a sudden worrying comes in about this disease, no, I've healed. Whenever another person comes in tries to like drain energy or make them fearful, no, the doctor gave me this pill, I healed. This person is unstoppable, unpenetrable, because they have 100% belief that they have healed, and nothing spiritual, negatively spiritual, can get in the way. So what we have to do is figure a way to do this without the placebo pill. Just simply do the same thing consciously. And that's what I did in order to heal from, I don't even know what it was. I didn't even get any tests done. It was either my colon or my stomach, something, I don't know. So this is how I did it. The number one thing that I did was I did focus work and connecting. Connecting to the source, I guess you could say. Some people call it source, some people call it God, some people call it the highest spirit of all, whatever you want to call it, some call it Jesus Christ, whatever you want to call it, is connect, which is being present and doing focus work. And then what we want to do is, what I did was I looked at my entire colon area. Now, when I was on this path of doing enemas every single day, I started to go I started to go a little bit mad, and I looped a lot of stuff. For example, there are people that worry about makeup every single day. There are people that worry about their weight every single day. They can't live happily because they think that they're overweight. As soon as they see a mirror, it's a trigger. Maybe they've got acne. It's a trigger. And then they start looping in their heads, and they're worried about weight, and they're just miserable, and they feed that. They loop it, they loop it. They don't try to stop it and be like, no, and then focus and try to, like, for example, when a person gets angry, we all know how to stop anger. We can either go crazy and throw stuff against the wall, or we can focus and kind of, we've learned how to master the ability of watching the anger dissipate and go away. And it's the same concept with when we are worrying about our weight, when we're worrying about our makeup, when we're worrying about anything, we could focus and do that what we do with anger, or what we mostly do is allow the loops to go, let insecurity drain us to pieces, and then we're just like in this loop of misery. So I was doing the same thing in terms of with my colon. I was doing this, keep in mind, I was doing this for 10 years. So for doing this for 10 years, enemas, I got to this mentality where I would be nervous, like, oh, I need to go travel, I tour, I need to have an enema bag. What if I'm not able to do it? I need to have everything perfect. I need to have gas. Whenever I would go to the bathroom or something, I would kind of, there would be this intensity, like I couldn't relax. And I would, instead of worrying about my weight, I was worrying about my colon on an ongoing basis. So when you do stuff like this, it can create spiritual openings. And so my colon, I guess you can say, had tensions, we'll call it, attached all throughout my colon. And I didn't even realize how crazy it was until I had to stop doing the enemas and colonics. And I learned a lot of the ins and outs in order how to heal this. And I'm going to share them right now. So the number one thing that I would do is all of this tension that was going on is I would look at my colon area, and I would do this thing of connecting while focusing at the same time. And what I would do is I would feel my colon, and I would kind of like look for the pain and tension. We're talking I'd see the physical pain, and I would even feel the tension. And what I would do is I would take my focus and attention while connecting, and I would try to relax my colon to where I was just like breathing in deep and then relaxing. It's almost like if you're looping in your mind, you can't really do this. There were times where I would like spend hours trying to do this, and I would get nowhere because I was just looping. But when I had success, I would feel my colon like going, like relaxing. It's almost like I felt something attached to it on some level, and I would relax it completely. And then I would stare at it, and then all of a sudden I would feel pain, and pain would get more intense, and I would just sit with it. And then all of a sudden I would feel something leave, and then the intensity just like disappeared in that one area. And I was like, thank you. It felt so good. And then what I would do was I would look for the next point of tension and do the same process. And it took a long time because there's a lot of understanding and know-how that needs to happen when doing something like this. And there's also shortcuts. There was one reason why I had such a hard time versus someone else, because I needed to learn this. So some of the aspects that I had trouble with when doing this that held me back were things like this. For example, Renata said she has back pain. She took our CBD oil. She was pretty much debilitated, and then she took our CBD oil. 80% of her back pain went away. So what tends to happen when someone has a ailment or physical injury or disease, and they're trying to heal naturally, and they're thinking raw foods will do it, which is a great placebo effect, by the way. Raw foods is a very potent thing. Don't get me wrong, it also does some magic, but there's also a placebo aspect. To any healing, there's a placebo aspect, because in order to heal, you need to have that, because there's a spiritual component. And if you don't eliminate the negative aspects, that's what's holding us back. So there would be times where here I was with my colon issue, and then I would eat something that was not ideal, and then I'd be like, oh, I screwed everything back up. Now I'm back to square one. Or I would be working out with really heavy weights, and then like in my mind, I would be like, there's a lot of thoughts that run through our minds, some of them aren't even ours. It would say, oh, you just ripped your colon on some level, you got to start back from square one. Or for someone with back pain, all of a sudden they're starting to feel better, and then they move a certain way. They're like, oh, everything's back right where it was. Or if you have cancer and you're doing the 100% raw food diet, you're certain this is going to work, and you slip up and have steamed vegetables. I did steamed vegetables, there's no way I can heal. This is a trap. When you're doing this path of healing, the person who takes the placebo pill, there is no doubt ever again they're healed. It's done. It doesn't matter if they eat something wrong. It doesn't matter if they walk the wrong way on this knee where they had a fake surgery on. They've healed. They are 100% knowing belief that they have healed. So when all of a sudden something like this happens, you have to fight and be like, no, I don't accept, I'm not back to square one. This is faith. The body is way more resilient than we give it credit for. For example, let's say you have a back injury and you're doing all this healing, and the back injury is shrinking and shrinking and it's turned into that much. You've healed that much already. If you step the wrong way and now you have pain like you're used to, and then, you think you have to start back at square one? No, your disease is not here, it's here. But then if you start looping in your mind like, oh no, I screwed up, then this disease grows back to where it was, because you stepped on an acorn, or you ate a steamed vegetable. The person on the placebo effect doesn't do that. They're like, oh, big deal, I've healed. Skippity-doo, let's keep skipping on. So it's not a matter of, it's a matter of fighting. Don't get me wrong, because spiritual stuff is not easy. It's very intense. There's a lot of, it feels like spiritual pressure. There's a lot of times where we're not even worrying, but the spiritual component of worrying is pressing down upon us to where we feel like it's us. And that's where we have to fight in order to heal. It's like faith. And so here I was with this issue. There'd be times where seriously I would spend 2 hours straight cleaning this whole area to where all the tension was done with my colon. I got everything off. And then all of a sudden my bowels would just like unload. I would just, a little bit of information, but I would start going to the bathroom like crazy. Everything's relaxed. I felt incredibly good. And then all of a sudden I would mess up and fall for the aspect, oh, I ate kale chips or something. And then I would allow this thing back in, or whatever's going on, where we lost spiritual openings or whatever. And then I would have to start from square one. Not square one, that's not what I want to say. I would have to undo. It's like an ongoing thing. And then there were other aspects that I learned where I messed up. For example, I would clean spiritually an entire area of my colon so well, and I was like, oh my goodness, that feels so good. It felt so good that I didn't feel worthy on some level, And I'm like, am I sure I did that? And then I would go back in and look at the areas that I already cleared in fear, thinking that maybe I didn't do it. And then all of a sudden I feel something come right back in. It's almost like when you've done it, you've got to be like, okay, move on to the next and never look back. These are just the things I learned along the way. Because if you look back, you're looking for it. It's almost like you're going back into fear about it. You can't let it go. It's like when a person goes and they have their new disease and they make people feel guilty about it, they can't let it go. It's almost like they need it. And so I learned, okay, so then I had to like start from square one. And there's certain times where I could do it really well, and then there'd be times where I couldn't do it well. There are certain times for healing and not healing. So sometimes I have to go throughout the day, and then generally when I wake up in the morning, I have an hour or so, everything was really clean, and by the grace of, I was gifted the ability to like work on this and do what I was doing. But then there would be times like during the day where there's all this intensity, there's all these people around, I would still try to do it at the same time. And it just didn't work. So the main component here is understanding the placebo effect and trying to do it in a conscious way. Now, many of us worry about many things all of the time. I know many people who worry about their weight on an ongoing basis, and they're eating so healthy, but they don't lose weight. They've got to stop that. They've got to stop. It's not easy to stop it. You've got to stop it, stop feeding it, and then fight it. Whenever it comes in, no. And then again, it's like a spiritual pressure to where it almost feels like it's you worrying about it, but it's not. And you have this flame inside of you that's got to kind of being like, no. And it's like a battle. So in every aspect to where we're doing something like that, we can be having an issue. For example, there was, how can I explain? Let me think of some, let me give an example. Okay, a person with acne. They're doing everything right, but they can't get rid of their acne, and they're always worried about it. They're always freaking out about it. And there was this one person with this like crazy blister on their face, like it was like this big acne blister, and all they would always do is like obsess on it, obsess on it, obsess on it, to where it almost created like a lump in their face. Even if the thing went away, it was almost like you've got to stop that. Any obsessing we do like that, our goal is to stop it, because we're pretty much checking out on some level and allowing things to do things to us that we don't want physically. And the reason why the raw food diet is so good, or any improved diet for that matter, is when you improve your diet, you're forced to focus more and connect more, because there's more focus. Like you get this, you're not used to this hungry feeling anymore. You have more energy, more clarity. In order to succeed on a healthier diet, you need to be able to do this type of focus work, or you're not going to. That's why most people don't succeed. And so it's almost like you're forced. It's almost like a new thing on life that people experience when they improve their diets. And they believe they're going to heal at the same time, and they don't accept anything. If you accept the criticism from your family or friends, then you're not going to succeed on the raw food diet. You got to be like, no. And that's another aspect we got to watch out for too, is our boundaries with family, friends, coworkers, bosses, and stuff like that. If we allow people to walk all over our boundaries and we don't feel good about it, and they're taking advantage of us, I've talked about this before in the past, then, or we allow them to make our choices on going to the doctor, going to the pharmaceutical drugs, not listening to your children, eating the food using your children as an excuse not to eat healthy because they're eating that way. That's like giving your power away on some level, It probably wouldn't be like that with your kids. It was a bad example. But what I'm saying is we don't want to be giving our power away. Like, for example, if someone comes over, sits on your couch without asking, they eat all your food without asking, it doesn't feel good. They come over, ask to borrow something without asking, and they just take it, and you're just like, you don't feel good about it, but you're just allowing this person to walk all over your boundaries. Or you have a disease and you're considering the natural realm, but then you have a family member who's saying, no, you can't do this type of thing, and based off of what they're saying, you're just doing everything that they say. That's a problem. There's just like we have openings on other things, we can also have openings on our loved ones that can create a draining of some kind, of some sort. And that's another aspect we might want to look at in terms of healing. So back to the placebo effect. The placebo effect is powerful. It's potent. People are healing from disease based off of taking nothing, just off belief. And what we're trying to do is replicate the same exact process here without taking a placebo pill and healing. It's just a matter of like saying, I'm healed. And we're not going to be perfect at it at first, of course, but we got to keep going. Maybe it's going to take a year. Maybe it's going to take a couple of years. Maybe you're going to heal the physical ailment faster than you heal the spiritual ailment completely. But it's like nonstop. It's like a new lease on life. You're just like, and there's going to be points of extreme weakness, but you got to keep going and keep going and keep going. And that right there is more powerful and potent than any fad, diet, machine, equipment, supplement, superfood, anything you can possibly imagine in order to heal. And by the way, this is going to be the last spiritual hangout that I do publicly, because there's many different beliefs and different things like that. It's going to come back to like healing disease naturally. I haven't created we're in the process of creating a website to where it's going to be a membership. The first like week is free or something, to where I'm going to be talking about these types of things and helping people individually on an ongoing basis on how to heal disease spiritually, from a spiritual level. Just make sure you're signed up to our newsletter, therawfoodworld.com. And there, I'm going to announce when this website is ready, and then you can sign up for free, and then you can determine if you want to do it every week. But this is kind of like what we're talking about now is kind of like a preliminary video on what we'll be talking about, but it'll be more hands-on, like helping Renata here with the back pain issue and telling her like the different aspects we talked about. If you walk wrong or step wrong, you're not in a worse position. You don't have to start over. You just have to keep doing what you're doing. We got to fight the spiritual aspects, stand our ground, show up with who you are, what you want, and things like this. Now, this procedure that we're talking about, doing the placebo effect consciously, is very powerful and potent. There are other shortcuts to where things can happen, to where it's almost like you can heal instantly. Just like when you take the placebo pill, you believe it so much that you heal instantly. It's almost kind of like some sort of miracle. But you don't need a placebo effect pill in order for a miracle to happen. And this is where I kind of I'm going to be more careful publicly versus in this this new weekly hangout thing we're going to do. So a shortcut is pretty much making a life change. That's the major shortcut, making a life change. And there are certain aspects that it's almost like the person who takes the placebo effect goes through the same exact thing that I'm teaching you right now, but it's like on autopilot. It's almost like they're doing it with like crazy. It's like it's a miracle. It's like they've been gifted help in order to do this. So what I'm saying is you don't need a placebo pill in order to be gifted health. And let me explain. Now, I'm not saying that I know anything about what cancer is, how to heal from cancer, or anything like that. This is just all of the different things that I've heard of that I'm about to tell you right now. Last time I mentioned this, there was a woman who got offended. We were talking about different scriptures. We were talking about shamanistic traditions. How in the Bible, Jesus would just pull out disease like it was nothing. He healed people from blindness, from all sorts of ailments, from spirits, from all sorts of things. So in shamanistic traditions, they state that cancer is actually a black spirit that overtakes a person due to an opening and kind of just like is within their being. And generally this happens, that there's an opening due to certain aspects in their lives that they're, I'm not saying this is what it is, I'm just talking about what is stated in shaman traditions, what shamans have told me. They say that it's this black spirit that overtakes a person based off of certain traits that they have. For example, they draw in energy. I'm not saying that everyone who has cancer has it. This is just a concept that came out from people around them, or this or that, just all sorts of different traits that can possibly happen. Or maybe like, for example, none of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. There are things that I'm not doing and I get smacked around like crazy spiritually. Sometimes I get physical ailments because I'm not doing things I do things I'm not supposed to be doing. So a lot of this stuff is due to us doing something based off of these scriptures of something that we shouldn't be doing. So now if we go back, okay, so what I'm saying is, I talked about in my story how I went from greed to the highest of all. I changed I had a strong desire to change my intent, change who I am, be a better person, follow the ways of goodness. And so one of the number one things that we can do is make a strong effort. And whatever you believe in, I don't know, whether you want to call it the source, God, the highest spirit of all, the creator of all living things, whatever it is, it's almost like connecting to that. Sorry for everything I've done up to this point. I want to be better and go from here on out another way. And this right here is the shortcut. And this is where miracles happen. I've seen it. I've seen it at the retreats. I've seen it many times. We live in this logic world where there's money, we worry about our house, our mortgage payment, we worry about these things. This isn't even existence. This is like thoughts in another dimension. You're like, you're not here, you're not seeing the cucumber juice in front of you, we're worrying about our mortgage. All of the news is just a concept that is like put in place, but that's not really what is. Like, my whole point there, I kind of lost it. But what I'm saying is that there are miracles going on all of the time, and we're just blind to it because we're not here watching myself without thinking whatsoever, like seeing the actual bottle, feeling the water go down, cucumber juice, seeing the bottle when I'm done. No, you're worried about your this is the real world. This is not the real world. And when we're in that fake world, we see way less. Is pretty much what's going on here. So anyways, just to wrap it up, in terms of, again, this is the last spiritual hangout I'm doing here. We're gonna move it to a more private sector. You go to my newsletter, therawfoodworld.com, to be put on that newsletter list, and we'll put it out there. What we talked about today was how I healed and how to heal a physical ailment spiritually. The placebo effect is very potent. You take a placebo pill that has 0 active ingredients, people have healed from cancer. Their knees have gotten better from a knee surgery. When that person takes that placebo pill, when they step on a rock and they have a bad back or a bad knee, and they like kind of twist or something, the person who takes the placebo pill has 100% belief they healed, that doesn't set them back. Nobody can affect them when they say, oh, you should probably get a second opinion. No, I got the knee surgery, I'm healed. I'm done. Nothing can get in there. No person, no bad thought. It's just like, no, I've healed. So what we're trying to do here is do this consciously. Spiritual openings, removed everything. If you are just tuning in now, you want to watch from the beginning of this hangout, guys. So I thought I was going to answer questions. We've already gone for an hour. That was a powerful, potent hangout, actually. So in the future, we're going to do these types of hangouts in a private online room where you can watch replays and stuff too. You're gonna have to be part of the membership. It'll be free for the first ones to decide if you want to do it. And then here on Tuesday nights, I know it's Thursday night, but Tuesday nights, we're gonna do the hangouts like we usually do. What else? If you want to come to a retreat here in Vilcabamba, Ecuador, we hit this type of thing very hardcore. We like do a lot of healing on a physical, emotional, and spiritual level. The next retreat's in December. All the Norwalk juices you can drink, all the coconut waters you can drink. We're actually having a contest right now on our website where we're giving away 3 all expenses paid trips, retreat vacations, even your airplanes and your taxi rides are paid for. Go to therawfoodworld.com. All you have to do is order anywhere between now and October 31st, and you're automatically entered into this contest. We have free shipping on our website until the end of the month, October 31st. There's a coupon code RAWFOOD7 for 7% off. That usually takes care of the shipping charge, but now that it's free shipping, that savings goes a lot further. Yeah, so that's how you enter the contest. I think that's it, guys. I'm gonna call it quits now. Thank you for tuning in. Next Tuesday, I'll have another hangout. And this is Matt Monarch, and I shared with you how I healed my physical ailment spiritually.